boss fights. It's what separates good games from great games. So that's what this video is about. My name is TuxedoMob, and I'm going to be giving you my top 5 favorite boss fights of all time in any video game that I've ever played. Starting with number 5. Gather around, kids, and let me tell you a story about a young boy. One snowy Christmas, and by snowy I mean 90 degrees because he lived in Texas, a young boy got one of the best Christmas presents he's ever received. A brand spanking new Nintendo 64. It was the first game console he's ever owned aside from his Game Boy, and what better way to start his long and happy gaming journey with a game called He slapped that bad boy in, and thus began Super Smash Bros. For the young boy that wonderful Christmas day. Guess who that boy was? It's me. Anyway, so Super Smash Bros., right? This game was awesome from the very start. You're introduced to this hand who takes out dolls of various Nintendo characters, and then what the fuck? This hand has the power to make all my favorite video game characters come to life? Then comes the character select screen. Wait. There's the hand again. I'm the fucking hand? I have ultimate control over all these favorite video game characters of mine? So anyway, you choose a character and partake in a tournament against all the other characters. Though it's a long and perilous fight, you finally get to the end. And who else is your opponent than the very hand you had so much respect for at the title screen? This was honestly the very last thing I was expecting. I felt like I was fighting Zeus himself, or at least his hand. His entire moveset was impressive, and defeating him definitely gave you a feeling that you were a champion. I know I'm overanalyzing a simple brawler, but for me, being the first boss battle I've ever experienced on a big screen, beating the Master Hand felt so, I don't know, epic. Number 4. So the next boss on this list actually doesn't fit in with the rest of the bosses because it's not really a necessary boss to the game. Now what could I possibly be talking about? Why, the Sephiroth battle in Kingdom Hearts 2, of course. For those of you who have never played a Kingdom Hearts game, it implements both Disney characters and Final Fantasy characters, as well as some original characters to create something I call a masterpiece. Anyway, as I said before, the Sephiroth battle in Kingdom Hearts 2 is hands down the hardest boss in the game, which is why he's optional. When Sephiroth attacks, he gives you 3 seconds to guard and hits you with an attack that will kill you in one hit if you don't block in time. Luckily, it's pretty easy to block. However, if you don't block, he'll keep killing you over and over and over again. This boss battle is really fucking hard, okay? The intensity in this fight really kept me on my toes, and I didn't want to give up until I finally got some hits on him until... Fuck this game. I'm done. Number 3. Imagine with me a game where the villain isn't really a villain until she is. She honestly wants the best for you, but at the same time doesn't give 2 shits about your well-being. For heaven's sake, she just needs you to test. Ah yes, how could GLaDOS not be on this list? I'm not talking about the new and improved I Hate Everything About You GLaDOS from Portal 2. Don't get me wrong, I love that GLaDOS. But the GLaDOS before you massacred her. For those of you who don't really know Portal's storyline or think it's confusing, let me tell you all about it. So you play as a new test subject named Chell in Aperture Science's testing of something called a portal gun that creates portals that you can go through to solve various puzzles. You are guided through the puzzles by a monotonous robotic voice that calls herself GLaDOS. GLaDOS makes you feel like you're the only one in the laboratory and there's nothing you can do to help it. The only thing you can do is test, and more test. You were promised cake by GLaDOS if you complete the entire testing procedure, however you start to seriously doubt that as she gives you more and more hints that instead, you will be incinerated.
The experiment is nearing its conclusion. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
As you near the end of the testing procedure, you find a way to escape behind the walls of Aperture Science. Along your way, GLaDOS gets more and more frustrated that things don't go as planned until you finally confront her.
Well, you found me. Congratulations.
The thing that makes this boss fight so awesome is that you feel like you outsmarted a machine. GLaDOS has a number of personality cores that you have to destroy to defeat her. Doing so activates what I think is the scariest part of the game.
You're kidding me. Did you just set that Aperture Science thing, we don't know what it does, into an Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator? That has got to be the dumbest thing that— whoa.
good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did.
This fight made you apply everything you learned throughout the game in order to defeat GLaDOS, and it does it so well. It feels worth it to defy GLaDOS' system, and even though you loved her humor, it still felt so good to destroy her. Number 2. Okay, this is getting a little tense for me. Let me ask you a question. What's pink and ball-shaped? Why, it's Jiggly Kirby! That's right, this round ball of fun stars and hands down my favorite Nintendo game series ever. Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, Kirby Superstar, Kirby Air Ride. All these games were awesome. Coincidentally, the first game I ever owned was Kirby's Dream Land, so you can say I've had the Kirby herpes for a long time. I know that everybody has their own idea, but out of all these games, to me, the best one is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Amazing Mirror added the idea that when Kirby's in a rough patch, he can summon 3 other Kirbys to help him, which is extremely useful. I don't want to get too in-depth with all the awesome thing this game has to offer, because it's now time to look at the main point I brought this game into the list. Dark Mind. I know that the villain presented to you in the entire game is Dark Meta Knight, but as soon as you gather all the pieces of the mirror and hop into the world beyond it, you fight him and immediately it doesn't really feel like a final boss. Suddenly you get sucked into some sort of vortex and Meta Knight throws his sword in with you and you're like, why'd he do that? I don't know about you, I've always looked up to Meta Knight as some sort of badass father to Kirby, so I've always had some uber respect for him. So when I saw Meta Knight's sword sticking out of the ground with a flashing "get it" over it, I about wet my pants. Dark Mind proceeds to have 3 forms, 2 of which you get to use the Master Sword against, and the last is sort of a minigame that activates the credits. Don't get me wrong, it was challenging. This is one of the only Kirby games where I honestly felt like I was saving the entire world. I don't know what else to say about this battle. Just love this game so much. Number 1! Okay everybody, thank you for watching my video, and I'll probably see you on the next one, or actually probably not at all. I'm gonna go cry myself to sleep. Bye! Oh, you didn't actually think that I wouldn't tell you my all-time favorite boss battle, did you? Did you? Okay, now the moment you've all been waiting for. The best all-time boss battle in my book goes to... Drum roll, please. Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2! Oh, fuck off! I know I'm breaking the first rule of countdowns by including 2 bosses from the same game. I have a perfectly reasonable explanation for this, which is Kingdom Hearts 2 is my favorite game of all time, so it's no shock that its final boss would top my list. Of course, I do have my reasons. I don't want to complicate the video by explaining the game, because believe me, Kingdom Hearts is fucking confusing. So I'll keep the story details to a bare minimum. Basically, you play as a boy named Sora, and this guy named Xemnas and his team of hooded rapists is complicating your shit, and you finally had enough of it. The final boss actually has 4 stages, but the final one is the only one I actually count as a true fight. Something about the final boss fights in Kingdom Hearts games is so elegant. The strategy, the music, the visuals, it makes me feel like I'm watching a symphony perform. I know I've used this word to describe a lot of games on this list, but this fight is absolutely the most epic fight I've ever gotten to do in any video game. I have yet to run into a boss fight as epic as the one against Xemnas. Many people argue that this fight is not that hard, and that may be true, but it's so much fun, and that's all that really matters in a game, right? This fight also includes one of the most intense parts of my childhood ever. I don't know, maybe I chose this battle because I'm a massive Kingdom Hearts fanboy, but no matter, this is a completely biased countdown. You should expect some bias. I don't have a lot of words to describe my love of this boss fight in this game, but I do think that it deserves no other title than the best boss fight I've ever fought. So yeah, that was the countdown of my top 5 favorite boss battles. Hopefully I inspired you to play some of these video games if you haven't before, because I honestly do think that they are amazing. Seriously, thank you for watching my video, and click subscribe to join the mob, and I'll see you guys next time. Bleh.